What's up, y'all? If I look like a mess, I just woke up. But I'm going to be talking about Spider-Man Lotus. One of probably the worst, in my opinion, the worst uh, fan films. Literally, the hype around it, I'll say, kind of sucks. Like, I'm going to get into the promotion of it first, right? They promoted the movie so much with the simple shots of Spider-Man swinging through the air. That's great. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But they never told us, from what I know, from what I remember, they never told us the story of the movie. So, it did say something about, Gwen Stacy, and that's another thing I'm going to talk about, and Green Goblin, which is, I thought it would be Spider-Man versus Green Goblin. Gwen Stacy dies. Like Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Except the whole movie's promotion was just him swinging. That beautiful swinging. That was it. And the suit. The suit was nice. I won't lie. It's probably my favorite live-action suit. But when you promote a movie so much to the point where you kind of had me thinking, specifically me thinking, that it's gonna be, breath of fresh air. With Spider-Man doing Spider-Man things, which then comes to Gwen Stacy dying. The whole movie, the story of the movie is Gwen's dead, right? The movie's pretty much Spider-Man coping with Gwen's death. Now, is there a problem with that? No. My issue is the typical trope of having every single Spider-Man movie having such a sad tone to it, where there's no introduction to many other things. Like, I think it would have been a great opportunity to adapt, like, the death of Gwen Stacy instead of it being the aftermath of Gwen Stacy. Because most people, for what I know, they don't really care about, not so much care, but they don't really, focus in or, like, talk about the aftermaths of the characters' deaths. Because in comics, most of the time, they just skip over, oh no, like, Captain America died. I think he always dies. And, like, Civil War, he died. And then after that, like, everyone was going on their merry way until, like, he came back from, I think, time travel or some bullshit. It's just what they do all the time. This movie is 2 hours of them crying about Gwen Stacy's death. Again, like I said, I don't have a problem with it being the aftermath. But majority of it is Peter Parker. It's not Spider-Man. It's literally Peter Parker the movie. You have the acting in the movie, in my opinion, sucks ass. I can't act, but from that, what I've seen, it sucked actual ass. Mary Jane couldn't act for shit. The only time she ended up being a decent enough actor was when Harry Osborn was in the cemetery covered in rain. And another thing I don't like was Harry Osborn. Majority of the time, which I get it's a coping movie, right? But there's a 4 to 5 minute sequence of no talking, just music, of him walking around all of wherever they're at, with nothing added to it. There's so much in the movie that could have been cut out to shorten the 2 hour length. There was no need for this to be 2 hours. Then we have Peter's character. I get it. Like I said, Gwen's dead. He's trying to cope with it. But he spends most of the time fighting with people. Not fighting, but like arguing with them. And speaking of a fight, which goes back to the first thing, it's the Shocker. The Shocker suit wasn't bad, but they gave him this weird echoey voice where every time he talks, it's just an echo. I never knew Shocker had a power like that. I just know he had little stupid ass gauntlets, but whatever. As for the Spider-Man quips, anytime there did show Spider-Man, it was with Tim and then the beginning of it. The beginning of the movie, like the quips and the dialogue, they take so long to respond. They will talk, then they'll have this like minute pause or something like that, and then they'll talk again. It was the same thing with his quips. Did you get those, what's from like whatever minute pause, then he says something. That's not how Spider-Man talks. Spider-Man talks fast and quippy. When the one sequence of Spider-Man, he didn't talk fast. He just Like, it sounded like almost the actor was talking in like slow motion and slurs. Like, they told him, yeah, when you talk, stop, stop, talk. Like, that's not how Spider-Man. To me, that's not Spider-Man. That's just some other character, like a Arachnido boy or some shit. And then, besides like me jumping around, because this movie pissed me off a lot. We also have the Tim sequence, right, where all of it, I I know, it's a trope. Like I said, this is another trope where Spider-Man would usually visit a kid who has like cancer, right? And I think they did that in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think they did that in. I don't think they did it in the Tom Holland movies or Tobey Maguire, but they did a lot in the comics. That is kind of like to use that multiple times. I think it was also in one of the comic books where Gwen Stacy died, or like at the aftermath of it. But it was like a girl who had cancer, and she asked Spider-Man to show him who he was. She had like all the Spider-Man stuff, but he, that whole sequence could have been at least chopped down to like, it could have been 10 minutes of like talking in between, not the half of the movie being about Spider-Man and Tim, and like I said, there's a lot of stuff that just could have been cut out, but it's 2 hours of bullshit, 2 long scenes, right, with the worst fucking dialogue. Gwen and Peter Parker have no chemistry. There's no reasons for me to be sad about Gwen's death because I do not know who she is. Like, literally, okay, besides the comics, specifically Ultimate and some of like 616, not really 616, only Ultimate actually, and the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie, I only know those Gwen Stacy's really enough to give a crap that she died in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and as for Ultimate, I think it's a clone or something like that, which is a whole other bullshit. But the relationship between these two, it's not there. Like, I can't give enough of a care for when she died because they didn't build up too much of it. They just did flashbacks. So then, based off of the flashbacks, you can see, okay, there was, it shows them. There was like a very good sequence of when Peter was upset, he had a flash drive, and they show his relationship with Gwen. If they did that in the beginning, and then, like, if they did that in the beginning, right? If they did all those dates and all those flashbacks in the beginning of the movie, maybe, then I would care enough for when Gwen died. Like, have it bounce back. Not have 10 minutes of a flashback, 10 minutes of a normal thing, to add 30 minutes of another flashback, and then just keep going back and forth. There was just too much unnecessary stuff in the movie. And then again, like I said, even so, there was not enough for me to care about Gwen dying because the relationship between her and Peter was not built up. And then even, like, when we had those sequences, it was kind of bombarded with MJ's shitty acting, and then Harry Osborn fucking being like the worst Harry Osborn. There was really nothing there going for, like, the relationship there for me to care about her dying. And what really sucks, the only good things about this movie was the VFX artists, swinging animations. Like I said, those were the only good things. The costume, and then the music. The music is fucking amazing. I think it was made by a dude named Gladius. I like his stuff. But other than that, those three things, those could have been put in far better movies. But they were put in this shit, which was just a 2-hour long crying session, right? Where all the characters did was fight and argue with each other. Then they were crying. Then we had a useless segment of MJ and Flash Thompson, right? Which, like, I'm almost out of breath because of, like, ranting on about this thing. There's not a lot of good coming from this thing. I watched this, I think, 3 times already for my review. I watched it the day it was released. I stood up to watch it. I literally tried to skip the live stream because I didn't know if it was over or not. I watched it at 9 p.m. or like 8 p.m. I finished it at 11. Then I went back and I skipped around just to watch it the second time. My third time today, like maybe 10, 20 minutes of it, I skipped around just to see the segments. I'm not gonna lie to you, I watched it thinking like 2 times to think maybe I missed a scene where Spider-Man did fight besides the beginning of the movie. It's not there. It's just my thing with Spider-Man movies, like there's a fan film actually. I'm gonna talk about that right now. It's like 5 minutes. I think it's called A Friend Called Spider-Man, right? The fan film of that I really liked, even though it's 5 minutes. It's literally Spider-Man talking to a girl that has suicide, that is thinking about doing, an act that she may or may not regret. I'm not trying to word it so where I get flagged or something, but I watched that short film, and I really liked that short film. It emphasized a lot on Spider-Man talking to someone who was going through a very, very tough time, and it was just a very short, sweet, fan film. I have no issue with, okay, like I said, 2 hours is a bit much, in my opinion, because it was filled with useless crap. But if they were to just chop out certain things, and then chop out certain things that didn't need to be there. The Harry Osborn scene, some of the sequences with Tim, because they did feel a little awkward, in my opinion. It's just the long pauses they had, or the silence is very, bad, and then most of the shots they did have with him in the Spider-Man suit, they had always zoomed in on his elbow. That was weird to me. And with the Tim sequence, too, the mother was a better actor than half the cast. And she only had 2 minutes of screen time. So a lot of it is just not adding. A lot of it is just taking, I guess, their sweet time with certain things. And it did take a sweet time for them to get to the point with stuff. And, I would have liked this a little more if it just wasn't so dead set and focused on the fact of Gwen being dead. And I understand them doing all this. They really did capture, how people reacted in different situations. But I think it's the way that the people who did the acting kind of made it crap. But I guess that's really all I gotta say for this thing, other than the, the music, the VFX, the costume definitely could have been in something far better than this. Other than that, everything else was just horse shit. And I mean, I don't even like Harry Osborn's fucking actor. I don't like him at all. I don't like him. I don't like how he acted. I don't like how half these characters acted. Not even counting the controversy of whatever happened with them. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's my review on Spider-Man Lotus, one of the, if not the worst fan film to date. I think I might want to do more reviews on fan films or just movies in general, because this is low-key fun for me to just absolutely speak my mind on something that's this fucking bad. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one, and yeah.